Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares with economic and financial news. Today's reports include Ivory Coast shifts from cocoa to mining, and Bangkok cracks down on its street vendors. First, the headlines. U.S. stock indices struck new records on Monday on improving economic data, solid corporate earnings, and continued central bank liquidity. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 hit new records on Monday as U.S. markets continue a six-year bull run. The tech-rich Nasdaq Composite Index jumped 0.90%, finishing above 5,000 for the first time in 15 years and only the third time in its history. Gains followed a stream of merger announcements and were spread well among Nasdaq tech titans, including Google, Intel, Cisco Systems, and Apple. China's top political advisory body said Beijing will show no mercy in its fight against corruption in comments made ahead of a key annual meeting. Beijing's anti-corruption campaign has already hit the booming luxury industry, once one of its fastest growing sectors, reducing it to negative growth. The government also imposed a frugal working style rule on its civil servants, barring them from spending public money on lavish banquets or fancy cars. CPPCC spokesman Liu Xinhua said no official, no matter how senior, would be safe from the fight against graft.
Over the past year, the central government has persisted in strictly investigating those who are corrupt, with no areas being off limits, with total coverage and zero tolerance. There are absolutely no limits set. There are no iron-hatted princes who won't be checked.
Russia and Ukraine agreed to discuss a summer package of gas supplies as the winter package of Russian gas for Ukraine, brokered by the EU, runs out. Prior to the EU-mediated talks in Brussels, Kiev said Russia's Gazprom was delivering gas to rebel-held areas and undersupplying Kiev under the terms of the winter package. But Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak rebuffed the accusations, warning that Ukraine's credit under the winter deal could run out this week. Kiev, in the EU-mediated meeting, was however reassured that energy delivered to rebel-held areas would not be calculated according to the existing agreement.
We have agreed that those volumes that have been supplied recently and are being supplied today from Gazprom to those individual regions in the southeast of Ukraine, they will be separated, will not be calculated as part of prepayment scheme, part of winter agreements according to which the gas supplies are being carried out today. This will be subject to separate volume calculations and separate negotiations.
Tents were once again set up in the middle of a Tel Aviv boulevard to protest soaring housing prices as Israel braces for March elections. Israel's national watchdog published a damning report on the current government's conduct during a housing crisis. The report said housing prices had increased 55% and rent costs by 30% between 2008 and 2013, blaming the Netanyahu administration for failing to act. And though prices increased another 5% in 2014, wages barely increased during the period, the report said.
My wife and I work. We both have good jobs, but still, even though we work full-time, there's nothing in sight in terms of buying a flat, and definitely not in the Dan area where we work.
Ivory Coast, the world's biggest cocoa producer, is getting ready to tap its immense mining potential. To this objective, a new mining code aimed at attracting investors has been created to increase transparency, stem corruption, and ultimately boost this new industry.
Since conflict subsided in 2011, Ivory Coast has been aiming to revamp its economy, which has traditionally relied on agriculture. Ivory Coast is the world's biggest cocoa producer, but now politicians are planning to tap what they call an immense mining potential that the country holds. A new mining code includes new rules to attract investors and to regulate the mining industry that has worked under questionable auspices.
We increased the cost of the permits and some of the penalties. and reduce the size of the permits and some stronger criteria for application and the way joint ventures work and the general improvement in the administration of the mining industry.
While the bill still needs to be signed by the president, it is expected to go through. Included in the bill, which will replace 1985 legislation, are new rules to stem corruption between miners and government officials. The new measures also include tax and customs breaks for exploration projects and transparency in the permit process, which experts say has led to unscrupulous investors, according to the AFP report. Though the Prime Minister says there is a lot of room for growth, indeed only 5% of national earnings comes from mining, he also notes that there is a lot that has been done.
Today, the mining industry is expanding to create 6,640 direct jobs and about 18,000 indirect jobs, with 460 million euros revenue in 2014. The mining industry is then an activity which contributes to the national economy and job creation.
As Ivory Coast looks ahead, it will be faced with the challenge of balancing environmental needs, strong labor regulations, and economic stability.
We've come a long way since we first started serving the internet for information. Mobile apps are today what the internet was then, and the first app you open in the morning is like the new homepage on a web browser. Joining us in the studio is economic journalist Noah Alron from Israel's Channel 2 for a look at some innovative Israeli apps in Startup Nation. Ms. Alron, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Hi.
So we're talking about apps.
Yeah, so I have a little Purim and kids special for you this week because it's Purim and it's the holiday for kids. So
the
I have
Jewish holiday of Purim, of course, which
of course.
Some people who don't know about Judaism is kind of like Carnival, if you want. People get dressed up.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the holiday for costumes, and a lot of kids love it. So I have two picks for you this week for two really cool Israeli apps.
Okay.
The first one is called Wikids, and I'm going to start off this one with asking you a simple question. What do you do when you want to look up something?
When I want to look up something, what kind of something? For my kids or just in general?
Just in general, for you, you're looking up a term, you'll go...
I go to Google.
Yeah, you go to Google, and maybe you'll go on Wikipedia and you read something. So for us, for grown-ups, it's very comfortable. But for kids, it's not always that comfortable. It's not always that nice. So WeKids is actually an app that is that's a talking encyclopedia for kids. It's very simple, and it has a lot of different entries with 10 different categories, either animals or countries or even food. And the nice part of it is that, first of all, it's read. I mean, you can turn on the app and it will read out the term for your kid. Of course,
because I was going to say, I mean, kids who can't read won't be able to learn otherwise.
Exactly, so it's comfortable for them. And also, it's very short. I mean, it's only about 80 words per term, and it has a lot of pictures, and it's very simple. So it's very nice for kids, but even though it's just for kids, I kind of picked out some fun facts that I didn't even know, so it's also fun for grown-ups. I'm going to tell you two of them. First of all, did you know that zebras run in zigzags to confuse animals that chase them?
I actually did know that because it was in one of my kids' books, but it's completely... You know.
Okay, so koala bears, do they like to live alone or in groups?
In groups?
No, they actually like to live alone with no friends. Yeah, I did not know that.
Wow, I did not know that either.
And I found that out in the app. And the last one is that in Japan, it's considered polite to make noises while you eat. Some people know that. Did you know that one?
That I knew.
Yeah. So a lot of people know that, but I just had to mention that because it's really cool.
There's things that obviously kids would not necessarily know because they haven't been to Japan and don't necessarily know about zebras.
Exactly, yeah. So, and they can also, I mean, it's both read to them and they can, look at the pictures. So it's kind of really nice and simple, and even the grown-ups can, learn more from that.
With their kids.
And actually play with them. This app is available only in English at this point, but it will be available also in Hebrew.
It's on iPhones or iPads or how does that work?
Yeah, it's iPhones and iPads at this point. I guess at some point it will be available on Android as well. And it was created by two really cool Israelis who are also moms and dads. So
obviously, well, I'll have to check into that. What else do we have here?
Okay, so the second one one, we said, Purim, that's the holiday where you dress up. And this
That's
one is
scary.
a very cool one. I don't know if you've ever sent a video selfie to your friends. And the app that we can see here is called Selfit. They use augmented reality technology to create those video selfies. So as you can see, you can actually add glasses or a mustache. Even I saw a Shrek mask as well.
Scary stuff here.
Yeah, scary stuff, really cool stuff you can send to your friends. You can see the look from underwater and all sorts of cool things. And it's a very good mix of this technology. It is actually kind of complex. I mean, augmented reality is not that simple, and they use this complex technology to create those simple things. This one was also created by 3 Israelis. It was created very recently. They've already raised $250,000, so that's kind of impressive for a simple tool like that.
That's a fair amount of money, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of it's interesting that you can use this technology to do these things.
Well,
so if you want to send someone a
Noran,
Purim greeting, go ahead.
Do send me a Purim greeting. I'd be very interested to see what you have to send, what you have to say. Noran from Channel 2, thank you very much for joining us on the Startup Nation Corner.
Thank you very much.
Bangkok's famed street hawkers sell everything from noodle soup to sex toys. And though they have long dictated the look of the streets in Thailand's capital, they now face a crackdown as authorities struggle to make space for pedestrians on the crowded pavements.
They're the arteries that serve Bangkok. And in them, armies of street vendors supply the city with everything from fresh food to clothes. But authorities say soaring numbers have left parts of the city impossible for pedestrians. And in a new drive to reclaim the sidewalks, thousands of hawkers are being relocated to quieter streets.
You could consider the charm of the Bangkok, but the charm of Bangkok has to be accompanied by the ordinance. When we have the total unordinance, have the total rudeness, the charm wouldn't retain any charm.
This vendor has sold drinks on the same sidewalk for 30 years. Now he's one of 3,000 people from this market alone who have to relocate. A move he says puts his entire business at risk.
Each vendor has at least 3 people to feed: husband, wife, and child. But if they can't, who will be responsible? The government has to be responsible.
Police say they're responding to complaints from thousands of Bangkok residents, but others are concerned about the impact on some of the city's poorest workers.
With this kind of move, it affects a lot to street vendors who are not prepared to be relocated in such a short time. The pavement is not only for the pedestrian, but it's also for the people to earn their living also.
For now, Monkol will have to set up shop on a new pavement. He just hopes there are enough pedestrians to keep him in business.
And we take a look now at the media in Media Watch with Daniel Roth. Daniel Roth, thanks for joining us.
How's it going?
Good, good, good. So what do you have for us today?
First one is from the New York Times. This is not so surprising, unfortunately. Apparently, there's something called the Glass Ceiling Index. It's fairly new. They do a survey of 1,500 companies, major corporate companies in the U.S. There are more CEOs with the name John alone, just the name John, than there are women CEOs in these companies.
Wow.
So
that's an odd statistic.
Yeah, well, they were checking out certain names to see just how deep or just how thick, rather, the glass ceiling is.
Right, because it's basically going beyond the fact that they're just men. It's saying it's a certain kind of man because it's coming from, presumably a very conservative background with a name like John. Is that the idea here? Yeah,
well, I think that was one of the root ideas, is that when you look at names like John and David and Robert and William and James, and these were the names they checked.
Barack or Osam.
Right, they're checking sort of classic Protestant American names. Looking for if there's really been a breach in the power structures in America, and what they found is
names could have been taken also by African Americans.
Without a doubt. So it doesn't actually it doesn't tell you clearly that. What it does tell you, though, is when you pick a certain general regular name in America, a male name, it's way more common. There's just so few women CEOs. At the end of the day, it's telling us, look, there's just so few women CEOs. There's such a thick glass ceiling. On most boards, it's the same. They did this survey also in politics, in both House Republicans and House and Senate. It's across the board.
Well, we're not going to resolve this issue right here, but what else do we have?
Here. In Seattle, actually, staying in America, they had this they've been working on a new transit plan to make sure that for people who make $50,000 or less, that they're paying 50%-ish on their public transport. One of the things that happened in Seattle is that with the tech boom, a lot of working class people got pushed out, and they could literally not afford to get to work. So this is a big deal for the city. It could help around 100,000 people get to work who couldn't afford to get to work because of the transit prices coming from the greater Seattle area.
And presuming that they are actually still working in Seattle, despite the fact that software has sort of taken over.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of service jobs, a lot of cleaning jobs. This is what they're talking about.
Right. Well, Dan and Roth, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That marks the end of our Economy Magazine for today. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares. Thanks for watching. Do continue sending us your feedback. It does help us, establishing what we want to talk about on the show. And join us again tomorrow.